All right, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about what Bob Arum had to say about Terence Crawford and Terence Crawford's great weakness and how that could affect the ERROL Spence Jr. fight, assuming that it's made. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanan. We are back in the house at the 147-pound division. Hopefully within the next couple weeks, couple months, we will get a yay or nay on this ERROL Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford fight. In the meantime, however, video has surfaced of Bob Arum revealing one of Terence Crawford's great weaknesses that may actually play a part in the fight between the two. Before I get into that though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a longtime subscriber to the channel, thank you so much for your support. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. We do videos on a daily basis and we do live streams on a daily basis, so there's plenty of opportunity to have a really good boxing talk. All right, so biggest fight of the century hopefully will be taking place this year between ERROL Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. There's a lot of speculation about whether the fight will happen or will not happen. ERROL Spence Jr. wants to fight. Terence Crawford wants to fight. Some questions about the networks and the promotional company, the PBC, wanting to fight. But for the sake of this video, we're going to pour on ahead and say, you know, that the boxing guys are going to look out for us and get us the real big fight that we really want to see. So therefore, this video is more focused on actually who will win the fight. A lot of back and forth about this fight because there are two great fighters in the ring. ERROL Spence Jr. is the WBC, WBA, and the IBF champion, undefeated at 28-0. You have Terence Crawford, who is a perennial pound for pound type fighter, 38-0, has titles at 135, was an undisputed champion at 140, and is now a multi-year champion and like 6-time defending WBO welterweight champion. And I think, you know, the who is going to win is not quite split because of ERROL Spence Jr.'s fan base being a little bit bigger than Terence Crawford's. But, you know, at every conversation you have people that are just, man, Terence Crawford's going to mop him or ERROL's going to mop him. But Bob Arum had something to say about Terence Crawford that came out. It was said a little while ago that I think plays, and shout out to BFTB who put me down on this. So just let you know, Best Fight the Best has a great boxing channel. Make sure you guys go check him out if you've not already checked him out. About some things that Bob Arum said about Terence Crawford, internal conversations that would take place between him and his matchmakers about Terence Crawford and how it may affect a fight with Bud with a Southpaw. Now, as we know, Terence Crawford is a guy that is renowned for switching between stances. He'll fight in the orthodox stance, which is the right-handed stance, or he'll fight in the Southpaw stance, which is a left-handed stance. Now, he is a natural right-hander. And he's naturally a right-hander, but when he was young, he broke his hand, and so he couldn't hit with it. So he spent a lot of time fighting in the southpaw stance until he was able to fight again. And so he got a lot more comfortable fighting as a southpaw, and he continued that on into the professional ranks. Now, primarily, in my assessment, Terence Crawford comes out in a fight usually in an orthodox stance, and once he tries to has any type of difficulty or he moves into a mode of trying to figure out somebody, he'll switch into a southpaw stance, and then he'll fight in a southpaw stance, I think primarily defensively, as a way to offset or confuse the angles of the other guy's offense. So he'll fight the majority of the fight in the southpaw stance. I've been watching him. I've been paying close attention to that over the last maybe 8 or 9 fights. And without exception, he stays in that southpaw stance pretty much all the way until he gets a guy hurt, catches a guy coming in, or catches him with kind of like a tricky shot, finds an opening, loads up on a shot, hits him with a big shot. Because when you're in your orthodox, when you're an orthodox fighting in a southpaw stance, your strong hand is actually in front of you. Now, Terence Crawford has a very solid left. However, it's not as strong as his right, and his right is in front of you when he does that. And he'll do that against most of the opponents that he fight are orthodox. But what Bob Arum is saying is that when he was talking about this specifically when he was talking about the Manny Pacquiao fight, he said, that pretty much understood how Terence Crawford would be favored to beat Manny Pacquiao. But he said, look, man, my matchmakers do not like Terence Crawford against southpaws because he leaves himself open to southpaws. So what does that mean? A southpaw, and why is that? Now, first, a southpaw, when you fight in a southpaw stance against a southpaw, you are now pretty much what you call in a closed stance, which means that unlike when you have a southpaw orthodox situation, when you're a southpaw and orthodox, which is an open stance, the feet that are on the same side of the fighters, right, directly in front of each other are far apart. I mean, are where the jab hands are very close to each other. So all you have to do is reach out and touch the jab. That's why it's very, very hard for orthodox fighters to jab on southpaws, because the southpaw's hand is right there blocking your jab, can knock it down, can come over the top of the jab, right? And so that's why that's a difficulty, and the angle, they're not used to those straight lefts coming at them, right? So that angle is off when you're an orthodox southpaw. But when you go southpaw, that's the opposite. The jab is not in front. One person's jab is not in front of the jab anymore. The natural southpaw's jab is more exposed. Right, it's more there to hit you because you'd have to reach over to knock it down. So in that case, you have somebody in a southpaw stance fighting a southpaw. The natural, whoever that is that's used to switching, is at a disadvantage, and the southpaw, or let me put it this way, the southpaw advantage is no longer there. And if that fighter fights you in orthodox, if that fighter is going to, and so say then the orthodox fighter who doesn't switch is now in an orthodox stance. Now now the southpaw advantage is with the southpaw, and the orthodox jab gets knocked down, and the southpaw guy is used to fighting like the southpaw is used to fighting. And so in that particular case, like even when you see like the last southpaw that Terence Crawford fought was Julius Ndungo, and I don't really think that is like Julian Ndungo threw a lot of wide punches, didn't throw straight punches, but you can see even in the fight with Terence Crawford and Julius Ndungo that Terence Crawford left himself open a lot. His hands were kind of down here, but Julius Ndungo just wasn't the level of fighter to take advantage of it. Now, Bob Arum did not give any type of details on what the southpaws were that were giving him problems, whether they were in, whether he saw that in sparring or whether he saw that early in southpaw matchups. But when matchmakers from a matchmaker from Top Rank are the best matchmakers that there are in boxing, without a doubt. Those guys hardly ever miss a beat, which is why they are so good at getting their fighters to championships, because they say, hey, look, we're not going to make a fight between one of our young and up and coming fighters for a championship unless we're 80%, or I think he might have said 80%, but I think they're probably more like, so they're 90% sure that fighter is going to win. And if they don't think that they can, they're not going to make those fights for those guys. And so they're the best matchmakers in boxing, and I doubt very much that they miss that. And that may very well be, the difference in the fight between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. However, at the same time, I understand that, leaving yourself open and having problems with southpaws does not mean that you're not going to be able to beat the southpaw that you're fighting, right? It just means, for me, that Terence Crawford's southpaw advantage disappears with a southpaw, and therefore he is more likely to go orthodox, which gives the southpaw advantage back to the natural southpaw. And also, you can see that same dynamic to a lesser degree in the fight that took place with Jack Cottrell and Josh Taylor, where Josh Taylor also does that, likes to switch a lot, stay in the southpaw stance and go to the orthodox, but he stayed in the southpaw stance with that southpaw and was constantly getting hit with that straight left hand. It's like he couldn't miss with the left hand. Couldn't miss him with the jab because those angles were off and he wasn't used to doing that southpaw thing because that advantage just is not there. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.